Guys, what's going on? So today we are looking at a spec of Warrior, which has been very neglected in Arena, and it needs to come back. It needs to have a resurgence. You know, the Paladins, they've got something very similar, and it's time for us to have Prot. It's time for Warriors to have Prot. We need to stand up and demand Protection Warrior to be viable in Arena again. Obviously, that's not the real that's not the real thing in the video. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about Fury, why it feels like it really sucks right now, how it can get better, and you know what I think I could see Fury becoming, as a really viable sort of middle state, right? So at the moment, I feel like Fury just doesn't add anything to arms. Like it doesn't add anything different, which is fine, right? It doesn't need to be a better arms, of course, because you don't really want it to be. In a way, you want Fury to be a different play style, sort of like how Warlocks have Destruction and they have Affliction. Both are somewhat viable. They have very different play styles. Um, and I'm trying to think about other specs. You've got Assassination and Sub Rogue. Obviously, Sub Rogue's a lot better, but Assassination you can still play. When you keep going deeper into that, right, you have stuff like obviously other double DPS specs, mages, frost, fire, and arcane. They all like obviously fire is the dominant one. Frost is going to be a bit, off meta, but could still be somewhat viable in certain comps. And arcane is sort of the sleeper pick that maybe people aren't expecting, right? Fury right now feels like it is absolutely not viable in arena, and I might be proven wrong. Maybe one of you guys watching, or maybe a big streamer, will invest the time to work out how Fury can work in the current meta. I know that last season, and I do think BFA Fury was a lot better in Arena because of how you had the Bloodthirst route and you had generally higher heals and all this kind of stuff. There was one warrior that got rank one doing like Fury Warrior Windwalker, which was really really cool. Good on him. Big congrats. That's a huge achievement. But generally, I think Fury for essentially the last year has sort of felt a bit neglected. Or not last year, pretty much I think since Legion. And even in Legion, I think it could have been a little bit better. But generally, I think Fury kind of has sucked for a while, and I feel like it should be made somewhat viable because it is just really lame to not have any options in warrior play. I think a lot of the times being able to just switch specs, have fun with something in twos and BGs is awesome, and it would be so cool for Fury to be like that, but right now it's just not it. So why do I think it's not it? I've got a hypothesis for it. Firstly, our damage is pretty good. Like, I don't think our damage is actually that bad in Fury. Obviously, against armor, it's going to feel a lot weaker. Against cloth, you're gonna shred through them. But in my opinion, the biggest thing that makes Fury feel shit is the fact that one of your biggest defenses, firstly, ignore pain, is 60 rage, right? Which, you generate more rage because of enrage, right? The passive in Fury. So, you can argue maybe that's okay. But your biggest rage spender, which generates enrage and it generates all your damage, is Rampage, right? And I don't think you can compare Rampage to Mortal Strike. So in arms, right? Mortal Strike is 30 rage and Ignore Pain is 40 rage, right? So you can always keep Mortal Strike up on a target and your overpowers, which kind of replicate raging blows because they don't cost rage, um, up on the target, right? But when you ignore pain as fury, there's a pretty good chance that you might not be able to keep up rampage, which means your enrage falls off unless you get lucky with a bloodthirst proc and fresh meat, right? So it's super, super awkward to press ignore pain, which is obviously a pretty big defensive benefit as fury. The other thing is war paint, right? War paint is you take 10% reduced damage while enrage is active, but there's no guarantee that enrage is always going to be active because it requires fresh meat. Maybe you can't connect to anything to put rampage on it to get the enrage benefit. And when you compare this to D stance, right? This is supposed to be the D stance sort of, I guess, alternative. And I guess in Blizzard's head is that 10% reduced damage while Enrage is active. You're not losing any offensive downside for this 10%, so it's the middle ground. But I think what that doesn't capture is the fact that the majority of the time when you really need D-stance is when you're about to be stunned, when there's about to be a big go where you're going to be controlled and locked down, right? Which means your Enrage falls off. So if you don't have Enrage in the go, you don't get this damage benefit, which makes this entire row useless. The other thing is Battle Trance. So Battle Trance and Bloodthirst, they nerfed Bloodthirst from I think it used to be 5% health to 3% health, which in a really slow meta, that's not bad. Like 3% health every 30 seconds. You're getting 1% health every second that you're attacking. Maybe if the meta is really, really slow and it's super, super damp, then this is okay. And when you mix it with Battle Trance, you get 3% of your health and 5 rage every 30 seconds when you use Raging Blow twice, which isn't hard to keep up in Arena. Um, in my view, these were really good in Season 1 BFA because you could, like, it was a pretty slow meta, apart from like Turbo and certain comps, RMP. And if you live that go, they couldn't really kill you again with all this healing. But in the current meta, it feels like they can just like this HPS is so low compared to hybrids, like ferals, rets, Ellie Shaman's enhancements. They all do so much more healing, um, baseline, and also casting it that completely outweigh battle trance. So let's think about a Shadow Man from a Shadow Priest, right? That could crit up to like 12k or do like an average of 8k, right? Which is if you've got like 30k, 40k health, let's say 40k, that's a huge portion of your health. That's 8k out of 40. It's like a fifth of your health immediately, and they can cast multiple of those, right? And you can say, okay, but they need to cast it. It's not the same thing. Well, it's like if we had the option to cast it, I'm sure we'd love to cast a heal that did that much. But the issue is that Battle Trance and Bloodthirst just don't give you enough survivability to make up for the extra damage that you're just consistently taking. And the fact that other arms warriors are very in meta right now, Windwalker's a meta, so there's always usually a Mortal Strike somewhere on the team, which negates these even further, right? So it's really, really weak. It feels really, really crap to press any of these. And then when you look at our wall, it reduces damage by 20% and Bloodthirst restores an additional 20% health, right? Which is decent. It makes Bloodthirst heal a lot. But at the same time, usually when you use your wall, you're getting some mitigation. And the fact that you have to choose sort of between the mitigation and the heal, like pre-walling stuff isn't necessarily the best thing because good players, when they see you use ER, they'll just swap off you, especially if you use it high. So if you use it low, that you need to guarantee get that bloodthirst off, which might not happen if you're stunned or kited or locked down, right? So again, something that really isn't gonna affect enough. Like this isn't enough of a defensive to make up for parry. Parry is just so much better than this because you have defensive stance and ignore pain that syncs up with it. So ultimately, the meta right now is super, I guess, opposite what Fury Warrior should be right now, like where it should go. And I guess what could they fix? So, I've listed a whole bunch of problems. I have a few ideas. Obviously, I'm not a game designer or, a Fury expert. I think I got glad one season playing Fury in BFA. So, I have played it a fair bit. It's not like I've never picked this spec up and all that. Um, I think the first thing is that the PvP talents, this you sort of have to pick certain PvP talents. So enduring rage is just such a big damage, uh, like damage buff, right? Fear and rage. It's the only way you can sort of keep in rage during rampages and raging blows. Battle trance is a lot of rage gen and healing HPS, so you do need to keep that. And blood rage is sort of the replacement for bloodthirst, and it's a pretty big effect, right? Yeah, I think this tooltip's bug because I never gain 400 rage, but I usually gain around 10 rage a second, so I think it's supposed to be 40. And it removes all the snares, and you get a health cost on it, so it does give you a lot of uptime. These all look good, but the issue is now I have to run this. If I want to run disarm, I have to trade something pretty big for disarm, If I want to run big rally, if I want to run big rally, right, I lose, blood rage, right? Let's say I want to play super utility, I have to lose huge abilities to get that, and then I have to make a really hard decision. Where in arms, I can easily pick these three. They don't affect my damage that much. Maybe the only thing that affects your pressure is like picking sharpen or not, and storm of destruction. But those are usually pretty easy choices. Arms is able to maintain the majority of its damage, like 98% of it, um, while losing, while gaining a huge amount of utility. Whereas Fury has to lose a massive amount of damage and healing to maintain and not even be at the same level of utility as Arms. Like you have to give up so much to keep up with it. So that's one massive thing that I think, maybe they can roll Blood Rage and Battle Trance in together, you know, um, make Blood Rage have a passive or something that grabs some of these abilities and balance that out. I think they could buff War Paint in PvP to be 20% reduced damage. I don't think that would be too high, especially because Enrage can drop off pretty quickly when you use it. So, you can sort of play around that. And you don't have Mortal Strike, so like if you don't have Mortal Strike and something's taking a bit less damage, it's not a huge deal. The other thing is they could reduce the ignore pain costs. I understand they might not want to do this because of PvE and like maybe this would get really, really OP. But even reducing this down to 50, I think would be a big help. I think the other thing they could do is potentially put a Bloodthirst buff into Battle Trance, right? So maybe you have something like Bloodthirst heals double the amount, 6%, or 5% even, back to where it used to be, and you have the same battle trance effectiveness. That would be a nice increase to the HPS. And I guess the final thing would be looking at Blood Rage, right? Blood Rage is a bit of a weird ability because we used to have this baseline with like a different PvP talent that would always be picked, and it would give you speed, and it wouldn't cost health, and it would proc off Bloodthirst, right? It didn't have any cooldown. This one gives you a bit more rage, but still, I don't think it makes up for what you lose. I think Fury is a really, really interesting and fun spec to play. You're always having a button to press. It's a bit of a different play style to Arms. Instead of swinging, massive Mortal Strike and execute crits, you're doing a whole bunch of small sort of scattery damage. But right now, it feels like we're like a Windwalker that was left in the oven too long, right? A mix between a Windwalker and a Demon Hunter that's just been neglected. It's been in the fruit bowl for way too long and it's just rotting away. It's just not nice. I think the damage buff that we got from PvE doesn't seem to really translate too much to PvP because you're just so squishy. So whenever you use intervene, you're going to take insanely high damage. What I'm going to do is I've got a couple clips here. Um, Obviously, like the final change they could make is to put Mortal Strike into Rampage, right? Like a 25% or even a 15% Mortal Strike into Rampage, which I think would instantly make Fury a lot more viable. Um, I do understand like they probably want to be a little bit hesitant to buff Fury too much, just because of how it scales and all these enrage abilities and stuff like that. And I guess the reason I made this video in the first place is that I got pretty much nothing in the nothing in the vault except another weapon. So I had these. Let me put the actual other one on. I had these two 233 weapons on. I even put Ascended Vigor on one, which gives me extra healing. So I had those two options, and it didn't feel like it made too much of a difference. Like even with this much gear, 224 eye level with two 233 weapons, pretty much maxed out in every single slot, and my damage felt so laughable compared to other specs. So we're gonna have a look at some specs. I'm gonna commentate over them. Hopefully this is enjoyable. It's a bit different to my other videos, but I do think it's something to worth noting. On a side note, before I jump into the clips and sort of conclude the vid, uh, I am very appreciative of everyone who's been stopping by the stream. It's crazy how many people are in that stream. Like today we had, I think, let me have a look. We had 87 max viewers, right? Which is nuts, right? An average of 51 viewers. We got some subs, and that was over 2 hours, which is absolutely insane. when I look at it, just because um, at the start of the month, right? If I look at my channel analytics right now, my average viewers in on the 8th of January, which is roughly 20 days ago, 3 weeks ago, I would get an average, like, average viewers were about 2.5 people. And, last week when, I've started to make more videos and stuff like that, we had 26 average viewers, and we're like doubling exponentially. And it feels the same way with the YouTube. Really appreciate all the support you guys are giving me. If there's anything, um, that you guys, if you enjoy the videos and you want to help out, following the stream on Twitch TV, right, is a huge benefit, right? It really helps me grow, and it lets me sort of use that Twitch medium as well to kind of talk to you guys. But also subscribing, putting notifications on, liking and commenting on the videos. That also helps just put that out there, put the message out there, and kind of build it up. So aside from that small rant, positive rant that is, I will hop into the clips where we look at some Fury Warrior 2v2. Okay, we're going to look at some clips here. We are versing Demon Hunter Holy Paladin. This is my first game playing Fury in a while. I tried it out a couple weeks ago, but that was quite low MMR. I think this is roughly 22 to 2400 MMR. Twos games, so we're taking it seriously, right? And I'm thinking Demon Hunter would be a pretty good matchup for us. His leather, he can't really mitigate a lot of my damage. I charge out here. Probably the first mistake I made. I probably shouldn't have mounted, but sorry, charged in. I could have just slowed him and charged him there, but no big deal. The issue is a recklessness, and if I didn't leap there and I just charged at the start, it would have been fine. I get my rampage off. No crits, still no crits. I don't know if my gear is just really bad for this, like the stat weighting, but it doesn't feel like paladins take too much damage from me. We get a decent amount of pressure here with a siege breaker and the spear. The issue is I don't have a mortal strike, so a single like word of glory, like proc, he's full HP again. So I'm sort of getting mini kited, and it's not really a big deal, but I stun. He trinkets that, and they've got a lot of pressure, and we have like no pressure. I intervene there, and you can sort of see that I am getting like not that much pressure off. That it looks like pressure because I don't have Mortal Strike, so the damage is high, and I have Mortal Strike with the unhinged Blade Storm, which works with Fury, funnily, but nothing else. I get stunned here, and even in the stun, like on my warrior, I don't think I would have taken this much damage. I use my wall there just to heal myself and top myself, and we get a big heal off the Bloodthirst as well, which is nice. Healing off the Bloodthirst, and it looks not that bad, right? Like this position here looks pretty good. He's in execute range. I'm getting rampages off. I'm feeling like we're actually getting somewhere. The issue is these slow holy lights. I don't even think this paladin's used wings in this game yet, right? We get the spear down, and 30k HP. I'm kind of going up and down. Um, it's super super swingy. I can't really press ignore pain because every time I rampage, right, all my rage goes away. I get the full fear while the DH is stunned. And here we go. There's recklessness. There's the blade storm. So we get good pressure out. We actually have mortal strike on the target too. We swap onto the paladin, and I mean the paladin is taking some damage, but he's also like not healing himself at all, which is probably like why I'm doing a lot of damage. And here I get stunned for 1 second and I get hunted. That's it. Lights out. Let's see how much health I was on when I went into that stun. So I was stunned at 80% HP. 80% HP as a warrior. And obviously, it's the hunt, all this kind of stuff. I trinket up in like 3 seconds. I'm at 81 HP and it just evaporates. And the majority of the damage wasn't even during the hunt. Like the hunt probably finished me off there at like 15k HP, but it wasn't the reason that I died. I just got melted for the first 50% of my HP, which is nuts, right? And you compare the damage breakdown. Obviously, I made a couple mistakes connecting, but I don't even have a mortal strike, and I'm doing like it feels like I'm healing the targets, right? So clearly, it feels a bit awkward. Maybe we jump into the next game and it gets a little better, right? I changed my conduits around, and here we go. We have a clip against HPAL Arms Warrior. the true matchup, right? Fury or Arms, which one's going to be better? And I am curious, so maybe Condemn Fury might be a lot better. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what I need. A little bit of extra damage here. Jump onto this HPL here. We get the Hodge. We get some initial pressure. And instantly, right, like this warrior is able to get like pretty decent pressure on my HPL and cleave me too. Like I'm already at 50% HP and I'm doing literally no cleave. Um, you know, granted, I'm probably not whirlwinding enough, but even then, you just can't catch up to that. I get disarmed there, and I'm feeling it out right now. But you should just see how quickly my health swings, like every single time. I get a go. I'm peeling myself here. I have to use my wall because he gets the stun off, and I don't want my paladin to overuse on this go. But even then, because of the sharpen, it didn't really do much. So I go the warrior a little bit here. I get the siege breaker on him. He parries instantly, and I jump onto the paladin. And you can sort of see that with plate, like I sort of seem to get this first half of his HP down pretty quick. Um, but then after that, I'm sort of like a rage stopped a bit, right? And then if my rampage doesn't crit, it feels like it does absolutely no damage. I get bopped and it gets shattered. Kind of didn't expect that. I get the double. Actually, I missed the spear completely. I was trying to get the double spear, but I think I jumped at the same time, so I moved my mouse, my cursor at cursor macro. I get stunned for a second there, which is fine. And I'm trying to get pressure on this guy. And it sort of seems like the damage sort of comes in big spiky windows. So maybe it could work in threes with something like a Windwalker. Maybe that's something that could sync up with it when if you both spike damage. But this guy's not even really healing himself. He's just like judgmenting me and like Crusader striking, right? I do a big go here. I'm trying to pop off. I have recklessness up. I blade storm with the unhinged. We actually get the mortal strike on his divine favor. So we did actually stop some healing there. But even then, I'm just getting absolutely no pressure going here. He uses one word of glory, no mortal strike, and he tops himself. Um, his warriors blade storming. I spear both here, which is really nice. I whirlwind to get damage on both of them, but I'm disarmed now. And I probably could have pressed ignore bane here. I don't know why I wasn't. We get the fear off on the holy pally, and we swap him at the end. And he's got wings up, and my damage is getting intervened as well. We actually have some semblance of pressure here, right? The issue is that single heal from either of them just heals 25% more. So it's like having a quarter more of a healer on their team. Whereas we're down a healer, or like down a quarter of a healer. So it's a pretty big difference. Pretty big difference here. And we get the Hodge, and like this is the thing. It always feels like we're doing somewhat of a go when we're doing this Blade Storm because we have the Mortal Strike on him from Unhinged, which is kind of why I think with a baseline Mortal Strike, maybe Fury could be really viable. Uh, but without it, it just feels super weak. My paladins like wings. He got a wings proc there, which was nice, which kind of saved us there. There's big damage coming out from the warrior, and you can see the mana difference, right? My paladin, um, I don't know anything about holy warriors. Maybe he's really good, but my paladin plays at 3k MMR, right? He knows what he's doing, and we're getting very quickly. Like I think he knows his rotation. We just don't have mortal strike. So the lack of mortal strike here is really starting to sink in. My paladin gets kicked, I intervene, and he gets a bop off in like the bubble in the last second there, which was good. I'm chasing the holy pally here, and I use my wall to stay offensive, but these heals just aren't doing anything. Like this is enrage regen heals, and it feels like season one BFA just baseline heals of Fury. We're trying to get our raging blows back up on him. And this is a really awkward mechanic because you have to keep putting two if you ever change targets. I don't think you need like that needs to happen anymore. I genuinely think that it's fine to just leave it in there. I'm literally getting sullied by a HPAL as a um as a Fury Warrior. Like think about that, right? I can't even imagine how a HPAL should be able to ever kill a Fury Warrior with all our self heals and all this kind of stuff, right? But then we just run out of stuff. I just don't have anything anymore. My HPAL's out of stuff. And it's another game we lose. The damage difference is huge because I don't have enough pressure to keep the H-Pal like sort of healing himself. Like he can just use a word of glory to top himself, whereas my healer has to heal. And I think, let me see if we play any other games. No, and this is genuinely um, usually what happens when someone plays Fury for more than one game. The spec activate happens, and we peace out of there. So, I think from those games we can see how weak Fury is. Um, just compared to arms. Like I don't like maybe we would have lost those games in arms, but I don't think there'd be so much of a stomp. And after this, when I spec arms, we won like 10 games in a row, and I'll show those clips in the next vid too, when we go over more like arms 2v2 commentary stuff, right? So I just think that right now the spec needs a lot of work and it feels super, super clunky. Hopefully, Blizzard has good ideas for Fury, especially in PvP in the future. It really sucks for a spec to just not be viable in PvP. Similar thing that happens to like Demo Warlocks and all these other strange specs that sort of disappear now and then. None really come to my mind right now. Mistweaver, right? Like Fury feels like the Mistweaver of melee DPS. Sort of neglected. Everyone knows of it, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, apart from other warriors and other Fury warriors, like not many people care if Fury's ever bad, and that's probably a big reason why it stays bad for such a long time, right? It just has a small minority of people who actually enjoy playing it and want it to be good. So hopefully this was informative and useful and entertaining. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe, like, all this other good stuff. Um, we're gonna have more serious guide content coming out over the next couple of days. We're gonna keep continuing our, how to counter guide. So we're gonna have all those other specs coming soon. And yeah, hopefully this was something you enjoyed watching. Peace out.